Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Saturday night, party night for a few out there. Not for this guy. I am barbecuing, but no party going on here. 10:41 p.m. here on the West Coast in California, May 27th, 2023. The latest earthquake activity here on the globe shows some movement. Looks like out in the big island of Hawaii with a 2.2. Latest quake there on the globe. Before we jump into the earthquake activity, kind of want to chat about the tremor activity. Now, tremor, not volcanic activity there along the Cascadia, but slow slip event in a large event mode tonight. This is not past couple days. This is today's reading at 727 epicenters of tremor along the Cascadia subduction zone. Now, this is almost peaking out above the previous peak that we seen here back in early April. Now, I kind of chatted about this last night as a possibility, and it looks as though we may be into that stage of seeing a triggering, or at least a tremor event here. I can't really say triggering. You never know. This may trigger the big one. Who knows? It's always something to think about. But this may be a far more advanced tremor event than what we've seen here back in April. I kind of chatted about how this was very wimpy back in April. It never really peaked out compared to events in the past. Now, if you look at this graph right here, kind of see these tremor peaks here. That's the amount of tremor. The higher the peak here, indicative of the most tremor. And it was definitely ramping up here since about 2020 as far as that tremor activity goes. It seems like every 6 months or so. And we entered into a little quiet spell roughly towards the end of last year and pretty much all the way through 2023, except for the April event, which really was pretty wimpy. It was not a whole lot of tremor activity here along the Cascadia, but it looks as though I don't want to jinx it, but it looks as though we're looking at a more prominent event as we speak right now. So 727 epicenters. We look at the last week of activity. It kind of triggered up here about the 23rd here of May back on Tuesday. And so far, a total tally. Let's get a total tally here with today's events. Coming up on 2,000 epicenters of tremor. That's a pretty good number here. And that was only in a short amount of time here. We can pretty much exclude Monday here, the 22nd. It began roughly midday on the Tuesday, the 23rd. And this activity is not situated here across the Pacific Northwest. This is down here along the southern segment of the Cascadia subduction zone. So this is something definitely worth watching. We haven't really seen too much earthquake activity upstream. If we look here, again, it's a weekend, unfortunately, and I hate saying this, but they never report any earthquake activity out here on the weekend or any holidays. That's just how it is. You know, you can't tell me Northern California or the Pacific Northwest hasn't seen one peep or a squeak of a microquake activity out here. It's just... for whatever reason, whoever's in charge of the big USGS preliminary earthquake data reporting system just does not see it feasible to put out any microquake activity. So anything above 2.5, we'll probably see it put out there from the computer systems. But yeah, anything microquake out here, but I don't know. They just don't want to include it. It's not part of their importance of the weekend or Memorial Day or any type of holiday event. So even though there's nothing showing up out here, we'll just have to watch it and see. Again, 2.5 and above should show up. They do trigger the computer systems out here throughout the Pacific Northwest and, of course, Yellowstone out here. But you notice, right? Everyone kind of wonders why everything goes quiet on the weekends. Well, there you go. It's a USGS. Don't ask me why they do it. I don't know why they fail to report any earthquake activity across the weekends, but they don't want to put out any smaller quakes on their earthquake catalog. So if I was in charge of that, I would probably change that. but unfortunately, I'm not in charge of the USGS yet. You never know. I might squeeze myself in there. So yeah, a pretty good event here along the Cascadia right now. Again, it's hard to tell if there's any movement going on out here across Northern California. We can obviously check certain things far as seismograph stations out here. Let's go here to the seismograph map and see what we have here. This just covers the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington area. And we're going to bump into this 6-component broadband station here. Just get a little glimpse of it here near Myrtle Point, Oregon. Beautiful area. I've been through there quite a few times. And there we go. There we go. Bugs. It never fails. They always make their way into my update every night. So earthquake activity, this is very, very small. And I'm not even 100% certain if this is even earthquake activity from the last couple hours. The previous day here, this is some type of adjustment. We would, I think we would see some blips here on the graph if there was indeed earthquake activity, not only locally, but within the vicinity of the Myrtle Point area in Oregon. And I'm really not seeing it. This is very small interference. It could be who knows what, but it doesn't look like earthquake activity. And this is some type of adjustment here. Notice the similarities here between the two signatures. So, yeah, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of earthquake activity taking place here across Oregon, but the tremor, obviously, right, if you think about it, this plate here, Cascadia Basin, the Juan de Fuca plate is being shoved underneath here to the east, underneath the North American plate. So we got some large tremor activity kicking up here across the southern end. That's obviously adding strain, right? Not only here along the Cascadia, but potentially areas up along the surface. So we'll watch this here, see how it plays out. No guarantee that this is going to surpass the previous tremor event there back in April, but it's getting close. Look at that. Notice this line here, just about equal compared to the last event in April. I kind of thought it was a little wimpy. So maybe that was just a little, just a little test, and now we're going to go for the full board. We'll definitely keep an eye on it and provide updates. All right, let's see what we got here for the rest of California. Mostly microquakes out here, the 2.5 map and above, absent of earthquake activity for 2.5 and above. Again, mostly smaller microquakes, Ridgecrest southward here across the San Jacinto fault zone. Secondary plate boundary, I think, out here from the San Andreas fault. Definitely an accumulator of stress. And I can't really say a reliever of stress out here because that momentum here does add further strain up against the plate boundary. Obviously, it makes sense. The latest quake here at 1.3. Very small microquake out there in the jungles of LA. Not the tree jungle, but the concrete jungles out there outside of the West Covina area, it looks like. All right, further east, mostly smaller microquakes out there. Nothing drastic going on across the rest of the states. Let's go ahead and check out the Big Island, since this is kind of lighting up out here across Kilauea Volcano. I still think here we're within about a 3-week time span, potentially, of seeing this thing go into eruptive status once again. Quite a few twos out there tonight, scattered about the land underneath here, that is. Far as the hazard notification system goes, from the HVO, latest update was put out here today. And according to the USGS, Kilauea Volcano is currently not erupting. The Kilauea Summit is currently exhibiting signs of heightened unrest, obviously. Summit seismicity remains elevated. No unusual activity has been noted across the rift zones. Of course, they put out little USGS YouTube live stream. So live stream video of the crater, courtesy of the USGS. Inflationary tilt and elevated seismicity continues at the summit. On that note, I'm going to zoom in here to the Kilauea volcano area and check out the latest seismograph stations here, because I've been kind of wondering about why they haven't been putting out a whole lot of earthquake activity there across the USGS map. And there you go, blank. Well, let's check another a different seismograph station here. Oh goodness, that is some type of magma movement right there. I'm not even joking. That's what you call a magma movement. Notice those squiggly, or not squiggly, well, kind of drawn out lines. That's what you would see in magma movement. Earthquake activity obviously right here and all the other spikes, but this is underground magma movement. That's harmonic type tremor, which is what you look for in a volcano. Did they mention that in their update? I don't know if they did, but that's obvious, very obvious, of some type of volcanic tremor taking place there. This does not look like any type of outside interference, I don't think. These all are somewhat different, so we'll have to definitely watch that. Either way, some earthquake activity occurring, and well, they're saying 12 earthquakes here on the map according to the USGS, but do you guys see more than 12 here? I could probably count easily, times that by 3 at least, maybe more. Earthquake activity, and this is just over the last 12 hours. So earthquake activity is heightened above the levels that are shown here across the USGS map. There's not, even if you were to include the earthquakes across Pahala, 31 earthquakes, I think we're still more above that. But this here, notice that signature here drawn out. Let's see what we got across the rest of the graphs. I want to see if we can see that similarity in the there we go, there's the similarities on this station as well. That is obviously magma movement confirmed, at least through me anyway. Whether USGS wants to admit that or not, that's obviously some magma movement occurring underneath this area of Kilauea volcano. So I think even down south here on the southern edge of the crater of the summit, we're still seeing that signature. These are tremor events. These are not, obviously not like earthquake tremors, but magma on the move. I think we're seeing this happening very soon, folks. I think we'll see this kick up here. I don't want to shorten my 3-week guesstimate, but I think we're going to see the activity really kick up here across Kilauea very soon. Can't put a date on it, obviously, but with this type of increasing activity, the notable tremor activity occurring beneath the Kilauea volcano, and the earthquake activity, a lot more than 12 earthquakes occurring than what's being stated here. I think we're going to see that kick up really soon, maybe next month, more than likely. All right, so yeah, definitely something to watch there. Out in the beautiful big a gnat went in my mouth. Beautiful big blue Pacific, I was going to say. So I was watching some thunderstorms out here in Northern California, just east of me. I kind of hit Chico and the Hamilton City area in Northern California pretty good. But appreciate the folks joining in on my live stream earlier. It's kind of cool to see some lightning. We had a pretty good lightning storm out here a couple nights ago. Went directly over my house. Had lightning strikes within miles of me. Tonight a little bit weaker, but still kind of neat to see. Let's see what we got here across the Western Pacific. Older movement here across the western edge of the Filipino plate. Down across the, what do we got here? 5.6 occurring here across the Solomon Islands. This has been somewhat quiet here over the last couple days, so it only makes sense to fill in the gaps of quietness. About 101 kilometers deep. That's pretty deep here across the South Solomon Trench. Underneath this area, that's actually a really deep earthquake. Continue to watch. There's definitely a lot of adjustment over here over the last couple weeks with all the 7s and the 6s, making for a crazy event across this region. New Zealand 3.1, it looks like just off the north coast. So let's go check it out here across the GeoNet servers for the New Zealand area 13 hours ago. Okay, let's go to the all magnitudes here, all events. Looks like a couple ones here over the last couple hours or so. There's that 3.1 just off the North Island area 3 hours ago, 120 kilometers northeast of this area. That's deep though, 215 kilometers deep. Goodness. Far as let's go ahead and check out the earthquake drums here. And you know, New Zealand is kind of on that area. There's not a whole lot going on here, by the way. There's not, as far as I can see, there's not a whole lot, anything worth chatting about. New Zealand does not sit within this area of the subduction zone that they're showing here on the map. It is off the North Island area here along the eastern coast with the Hikurangi subduction zone. But this plate boundary here kind of moves in a different direction, not subduction, but more similar to the San Andreas Fault. And overall, though, this whole area should show some significant movement here, considering all the large-scale activity upstream here across the Loyalty Islands region with that 7-pointer and the, well, we had 7.7 and 7.1 and many other larger quakes here in this vicinity. And all this movement here has to trigger and adjust downstream with this plate boundary here, the Alpine Fault and the plate boundary between the Australia and the Pacific plate have to make a little adjustment here. It's just, I'm really surprised it hasn't by now. In fact, it looks awfully quiet. This region has seen very minimal activity following the movement up north here, so it's a little odd. But I do think we are going to adjust within this area eventually. So we definitely... Goodness. I need a bug zapper. I think I'll buy me a bug light. Because they're just... I don't know how they're getting in the house here, but they are kind of scooting in. So just keep an eye here, folks, across the New Zealand area for some further movement. I do think it's a little overdue here with all that larger scale activity. Further to the, let's see what else we got here. Java Trench area, a couple threes going on across northern Sumatra south and southeast across the Java Trench as a whole. We do have a very deep earthquake here across the looks like Afghanistan region, eastern Afghanistan. This area does see quite a bit of deeper movement here throughout the mountain ranges, and the Tajikistan, take your pick, in the mountain range there as well. Quite a bit of deeper activity occurring across that region, but definitely noticeable here on the globe with that 5-pointer. Also across the Mediterranean, got some 4s coming in there. Also a recent earthquake, looks like some smaller quakes across Turkey. But I see a 4-pointer hiding in there. And we'll have to go into the EMSC model to check this out. Looks like Italy seen a 4.0 a couple hours ago or so here. 4:44 UTC time, so that's looking at an hour or so ago in this area. Shaking things up slightly across the region. Only a few second floor. They wake me up. All right, that's a report being kicked in there from someone there in the Italy area. There's that 5.2 in the Afghanistan region showing up across the area. A recent earthquake. Atlantic Ocean, fairly quiet. There's not a whole lot. Some older movement from earlier, and also down south in the South Sandwich Trench. But aside from that, goodness. Another mixed bag of earthquake activity. One area that really hasn't been hit is the Izu Trench southward here. If you really think about it, that should make it's a major adjustment, I think, with the general trend, the overall trend here of these arrows. Look at that. You can't find a more defined spot here on the map than the Filipino plate. It's getting squeezed all around by some, well, big bullies out here in terms of plates. Pacific plate shoving up against the Filipino plate, backed up here by the Eurasia plate. And this is all kind of just, well, eventually disappearing. Not talking about anytime soon, but definitely over time, this plate here will probably disappear, I believe. Very small plate, and it does have some large earthquakes over time. All right, let's see what else we have. Puerto Rico, there's not a whole lot going on through here right now. A couple earthquakes in the last hour or so near the Mona Passage area, but overall, 11 earthquakes being reported there across the land. Space weather, what's going on across here? Well, 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 40, 10% chance for an X flare probability. And looking at the sunspot regions, we do have a couple areas here kind of worth watching. Nothing flaring currently, as you can see here on the map, or at least on the graph. Very minimal activity. It looks like about C flare category, if that. But looking at the magnetogram here of the sunspots, still shows this sunspot region down here noteworthy of watching. It's about the only one. Everything else is decaying around it. There's not a whole lot developing further out on the eastern limb. This is about our only hope of seeing any flaring activity at best. Unfortunately, that's somewhat bad news there for the aurora watchers, but we'll definitely watch these regions. There is a little bit of heightened unrest here across the KP index right now, providing a little bit of aurora possibilities here at the higher latitudes. Not 100% certain where that's coming from, but that seems to be the trend. We get these events coming up out of the blue for some reason, and no specific designation spot as to where they're coming from. But right now it looks like maybe a slight chance up there in Canada and also down around Antarctica. I don't know if we have any viewers down there watching this right now. Never know. Be kind of cool to see someone pop up and say, hey, yeah, we're watching you guys down here in the Antarctica region. That'd be awesome. So yeah, a little possibility it looks like there across this region, but not really expecting much, folks, in terms of the auroras. Hopefully that will change. We are entering into solar maximum, right? Let's look at the solar cycle 25 progression map. This gives you a good indicator of the predicted here in the line, and this is the actual here in the graph. And we were earlier this year into the well above the predicted range in terms of sunspot number progression and also the solar flux progression. We were way up there in terms of the energy, but we're backing back down here. It looks like we are entering into a little quiet period, but still above average in terms of their prediction. And of course, solar cycle 25 is going to peak out here right around summertime 2025. So we got a little ways to go. I'm hoping for some major Earth-directed X flares with a large CME associated with it. I mean, I'm not. I would actually love to see the auroras down here in the Northern California again. Be pretty awesome. All right, let's see what else is there, folks. We'll definitely continue to watch this as the sun is somewhat harder to forecast anyway, than the weather. As far as the weather goes, tonight, current convective outlooks still show some, looks like thunderstorm activity here for, let's see, this is valid for Sunday. So this may be This may be for tomorrow. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Valid day 1, current day 1. Yeah, sometimes this looks like for tonight. A little bit of activity kicking up out here. Across a good portion of the western areas of Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, in your typical areas that see thunderstorms during the summertime. So we're not even in the summertime area, and this is kicking up. So it's a little odd, folks. This is a lot of zonal moisture coming up here. It looks like convective activity up from the south. But it's a little early for that. June? Into May. It's just, it seems a little far north, a little bit far westward than normal, but no major severe weather threat, it looks like there on the map. Just an odd year. I mean, very odd as far as weather goes, folks. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? I think that's about it. Cascade volcanoes look clear as a bell. Nothing going on across the Cascades or the Sierra Nevada and down into Southern California. We do have one volcano up here into the Aleutian Trench that is showing a little bit of activity, it looks like, in the orange and the watch level. Looks like a little bit of ash fall being reported out here across the Great Sitkin volcano, provided by the Alaskan Volcano Observatory. Very slow eruption of lava is continuing across this volcano, producing a thick lava flow within the summit crater. Looks like several small earthquakes were detected over the last day, while clouds obscured all satellite and webcam images. So this has been kind of an ongoing thing since about 2021. So it's not something that's new. It doesn't look like any explosive events have occurred, but more or less like just a slow eruption with lava occurring there at the Great Sitkin volcano in Alaska. All right, folks, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We will catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. Enjoy your weekend, 3-day weekend for some out there on this Memorial Day weekend. Speaking of that, I gotta go check my barbecue. I almost completely forgot about that. I was barbecuing up some chicken and a roast. I know, a roast on the barbecue, right? Actually comes out pretty good. You just gotta slow cook it. So I'm gonna go out there and check on that. Have a good night, folks. Catch you guys back here tomorrow sometime. Peace out.